I'd like to introduce a partner of Geeq and a tremendous all around human being. This is the CEO of Robot, Matt Linton, and we'd like to talk a little bit about the future of technology and big data and blockchain and whatever we decide to talk about, Matt. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. Geeq as an organization, which we can talk about a little bit further, is a very special group in my experience. And Rick, exceptional capabilities, track record of he's had been involved in every part of Waterloo technology before anybody knew what Waterloo was, and a really exceptional visionary. But I have to say, and I'm saying this to you, Stephanie, but I'm also saying it to anyone who's listening. I'm fortunate enough to interact with some very special technology people. And you'll have an understanding of that about Robot in a second when we move past this. But from the first time that we spoke, Stephanie, yourself and John as well, I felt like we had, there was a spark. There was some magic to our conversations, but also to, frankly, your mind. You get into every sentence that you're listening to and process and then feedback. And that is only going to take Geeq to the next level. So Stephanie, congratulations. Congratulations, Rick, as well, because the oversight role and the ability to help nudge and guide from the board chair is definitely the right spot for him. And I mean, this is very fortunate for me. Being a Geeq partner is watching your organization just keep getting better. So congratulations, and thank you for allowing us to be involved in your journey.
Thank you, Matt. I couldn't have asked for a better person to share this with today, and all the way going forward. And thank you. Those are very kind words, and I appreciate it. The team is ready to go. So let's talk a little bit about work, because I don't want to get too distracted. But thank you. So Matt, I promised in the announcements for today that no blockchain knowledge was required, because we had you to talk about some of the challenges that the society is facing today. I think one of the reasons we bond is that we see that the current systems for data and communications are under stress. And I know you and the Robot team have some unique tools to and perspective to think about that. So would you share a little bit about what you've seen, what you've heard, and how you're thinking about solving that?
Absolutely. And I hope that we have the unique approaches that we think that we do. But it's the exciting part is getting into the market and proving that, which is the stage that we're at in Robot. So Robot acts on complex systems that over time have evolved and have reached their maximum capacity. So Robot's main focus, and where we've had our technologies have had the most success in the past, is going into banks, large global banks that have existed for 40, 50 years, but have been in operation since the beginning of or emergence of technology. And so they have a patchwork quilt of different data storage and management systems that have not been purchased in an organized way, have sort of been bolted onto each other on a needs base, or on a needs basis, I guess. That has been sufficient for many years, and it has taken the world from where we were with punch cards and in-person conversations to where we are now, which is at, just as Rick said, we are at the limit of the typical database structures, uh, and their flexibility is, or their inflexibility is, becoming a particularly existential issue. So, what Robot exists to do is to democratize the tool set to be able to amalgamate very quickly, with no code, maximum automation, multiple systems together so that the information is usable. And our goal is we're aimed at business value rather than talking about technology. So, uh, I I have a hard time condensing what Robot is into a single bite-sized digestible clip, but uh, the general approach that we have is how do we move from the past into the future, uh, and how do we do it quickly, and how do we do it in increasingly austere times where there are fewer hands to patch or to map and solve on the fly, because there's too much to do, and the tools that exist right now that we see uh, are either stuck in the past. We'd like to bridge that gap very, very quickly and put tools in the hand of the business users on the front lines that have currently, or that currently exist only in IT departments. Uh, so, what does that mean for the future? Well, the way that I see the future is new structures are emerging that have uh, inherent flexibility that is required. So, a very simple example of that is what do you do in rigid database structures when mobile phones are invented? Where do you put that information for your client? Well, you add a column here, you add a column there. But if you've got 100 systems that you can't act on all at the same time, you're going to have errors in doing that by hand. And then, so mobile phones, then email addresses, then social media links, then uh, there, the reactions to that have been insufficient for the future. They've been sufficient for continuing operations. That's beginning to break. And that brings us to Geeq and blockchain. So, also, if I can pause for a second, I've been a nerd and I've been a jock, but I've never been a geek until now. And I've also never been proud of either of those, but I'm very proud to be, and this is an announcement that's made here, but I was officially announced and included as a geek some time ago, and very proud of that since. I apologize for rambling. Perhaps there are some pieces of what I've said that you can dig into, or perhaps prompt me to give more information on. But where I see it is the past is reaching its breaking point, was got us to where we are. But the future is new structures. And one of the new structures that Robot relies on, with one of our other technology partners, a fantastic company out of the UK called Vatical, their strongly typed database allows for hyper relations within data, and also inference, because data exists as it is rather than as defined by the column headings or the row, the name on the row.
Right, because I used to work with big hospital data sets, and what you would find in the cell might be very meaningful, but difficult to find. So when you had 7 diagnosis categories, and I looked for a single diagnosis, I had to look through all those categories, and it's difficult to work with those data sets. And by the way, I'm very informal. If anybody hasn't figured that out by now, this is a perfect kind of chat for me. So let's dig back. You were talking about how you've seen the stress issues in banks. I had a new advisor whose name is John in New York City. I hope he's watching. Tell me that banks and financial institutions don't want to touch systems, um, because they're, as long as they're working, they're okay. And I think that that's partly because there haven't been good options before.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
so
I agree with that, and that leads into there hasn't been a lack of effort to try and solve these things, which is take data from legacy systems that many of them are COBOL based. It looking under the hood of some of these large organizations because of what you just said, which is uh, we don't know who built that. Nobody here knows is confident enough to dig in and start making changes. So the rule is do not touch it.
mhm,
If it's working, even if it isn't going to work tomorrow, we'll deal with that tomorrow. It's not working or it's working now, so stop talking about it.
yes,
And the efforts have been um, increasingly centralized, which is uh, the concept of data lakes. It was generally okay. How do we make sense of all this information? We've got this is something that I say to Stephanie all the time, but um, these large organizations have, in many ways, for a very good reason, um, chased the shiny objects of AI and ML analytics that had massive promises, but they forgot to clean the basement,
yes,
which is where all the information is. And so nobody opens the doors, nobody goes downstairs because it just it's too big of a problem. And when they do, the solution is take it all and dump it into a single place, and then we'll sort it out. But uh, the experience of that over at least the last 10 years has been it doesn't solve the problem, it just transforms it. So you had a messy basement. Well, now you've got an equally messy data lake. And somebody has to go through and sort all of those things out. Somebody has to go through and figure out what goes with what. Is this a first name? Is this a last name? Is this are these all of these things linked to this individual or this individual?
right.
And those seem like simple problems, but with 40 years of data amalgamate or collection in large insurance companies and banks, uh, it is a massive problem that just keeps getting more painful, frankly, as it starts to break.
Well, I'd like to point out for anybody who's joining us that one of the things that I find really special about Matt and his team and Robot, that we share at Geek, is that it's data is everywhere, but what matters is how can I answer my question, right? And you're saying exactly that. You're saying what I want to know is this the first and last name of someone that I can use in a new way? Where is the history? And I think Robot's got a lot to share about that. But we're going to have you back in the new year. You're going to be you've already promised to come back to these, right?
I did. I wish I could have said, well, I don't know. It'll be based on how my internal people tell me if I've done a reasonable job or not. So, but yes, when I I can't wait to keep talking to you guys. This is something that I'm so fortunate to get to have access to so much of Stephanie and John and Rick and your team's time because uh, this is how we talk. We talk about the large problems, and then we start to narrow down into well, how can we work together to solve them? And so that it's been said, the um, Geeq, particularly the Geeq protocol and the public-private relationship, as well as the atomic swap capabilities that make smart contracts less important. Because smart contracts to us, when we're thinking about from the robot perspective, how do we integrate? How do we really embrace the future? Smart contracts, I have to admit, I have a very surface level understanding of, but they create more complexities for us. And so we're aimed at simplify and democratize both access to data as well as user interface. Like the robot user interface is no code for a reason, because the people that have the business knowledge, that are on the front lines, that are doing the business, that know what the data means, they don't have the sophisticated data coding and programming skills required to dig these things out one at a time. So we created an interface that if you can use a website, if you know how to use a mouse, you can click boxes and go on to the next screen, and you know your information, you know your data, you know your systems. You can do it all yourself. But that's a beginning. Where do we take that to? And what we would like to do is, in our relationship with Geeq, is move things very naturally and organically into a structure where a Geeq protocol becomes the enterprise backbone for large banks and organizations. That it solves so many problems of moving information from one place to another, permissioning between departments, and then being able to seamlessly move the information that you've collected in private chains onto public chains for regulators, for maximum transparency. That is the future. And I'm fortunate. I'm sorry that I'm rambling a bit, but I'm extra fortunate for this because there's so much attention paid to blockchain's capabilities with respect to cryptocurrencies. And that's a painful thing right now. I don't have to say why, but that's not all blockchain is. And that certainly isn't all the Geeq is.
Right.
And that makes me so excited because I think I can see something that is in a direction that many people are not facing or paying attention to. And so that means that we get to show the world how to do this.
I'm so excited about it too, Matt. Uh, I love that you get to share what you see um, in real world terms, um, what you hear from people who have that data uh, need and expertise, but don't have the time to do the coding themselves. And you and Robot are amazing. You have amazing technology. I can't wait for people to learn more about that. And thank you for doing a lot of our job for us because um, we fit right in with you. I think it's going to be very exciting. So I will definitely have to keep talking on other occasions. But Slavian, who you all met at the beginning of this stream, has organized us very well to have different portions of the program. So, Matt, if you would stay with me, I'd like to bring John on for some questions and answers from the community. And John is a founder of Geeq and the inventor, really, of the Geeq protocol. Want to say hi?
Yep. So, thanks for having me. Matt, good to see you again. The ideas that you sort of put forth about how to deal with these data questions and using blockchain as one of the data backends is really exciting. Looking forward to getting to it.
That's great. Well, I keep saying I'm a broken record. I get to talk to the two of you all the time, and a very special intellect in in very interestingly different ways, which is a lot of fun for me. So to anyone watching, try and track down as much as you can find that John and Stephanie have put out there, because there's something special in each of it.
Well, this is the holidays, so we can engage in a little bit of a love fest. Matt's got a really broadly uh, expert team in various parts of the data world and technology world, and in applications. And then Matt himself, he told me that you were in part a philosophy major. So speaking of special minds, John used to, when we met in the very beginning of our relationship, John would brag about how he took philosophy at University of Chicago, and I would have to admit that I couldn't handle that. um, I was more the social science side. So just so people know a little bit about the kinds of people who are attracted to technology. They do not all have to be coders and developers, but it takes all kinds. We need everybody.
Brag?
Huh?
Did I brag, actually?
You might have been very proud about Chicago at the
I
time.
was
Yeah.
excited about the ideas.
Yes, ideas. Um, I think that we have to stay on theme for uh, this particular live stream. We have some questions about big data that have been percolating around the geek community. Um, here, uh, shall I read it? I guess I'm emceeing. Can you please comment on the scalability of Geek's blockchain for highly complex, computation-intensive tasks, such as machine learning AI processes, which are not even close to feasible elsewhere? That's a geek question for you.
Okay. So one of the things I think that we share with Robot is this idea that we stay in our lane. We compartmentalize. The data is the data. It is what it is. The way it's collected is what it is. The way that it's used is changing every minute. So trying to anticipate or keep up somehow with that is, kind of a mistake. It's like, having to paint your appliances every 2 weeks to keep up with whatever the current fashion is. So instead, we're trying to build a back end that can support these things. And in particular, so we do scale, and we believe that we can do something on the scale of 1,000 transactions a second, which is an astonishing number, really. Visa, MasterCard, this is an example, on a typical day does something like 30,000 a second, and round Christmas up to 100. But it's within an order of magnitude or so of that enormous system. 1,000 transactions is a huge number. We don't really attempt to do the computation, because the computation that's Matt's job or somebody else's job. What we want to do is make credible data available in a trustless way. And so being able to log the existence of various observations and have the provenance, have them ingestible, either from a public source or from a permission source. That's where I think that we fit in. Sort of just to go in a slightly different direction. There are some blockchains that are basing part of their protocols on things like reputation of nodes. Those reputations are induced through some kind of AI, past behavior and so forth. Problem with anything like that, and this includes systems that are not on blockchain, systems that purport to tell you if you're, what you like on Netflix and so forth. The problem is there's absolutely no transparency there. They give you an answer. They say, all right, this is a trustworthy node, but how would I know that? Not only do I not really know their algorithm, and if I did, I don't know if I actually believe it's the right one, but I don't know their data. I don't know how they trained their system. And so in the end, it's just a trust layer. It's trust this guy because he's got a good reputation, but trust me to tell you that, because there's no real way to verify it. However, if you have a system that can scale like ours, you can put those observations in the blockchain so that they can be rerun. And there's no way you can back off from exactly what your inputs were. So if we're going to allow artificial intelligence systems control our destiny, which it appears we are, knowing the data with which they are trained and being able to rerun those in a way that doesn't require me to trust what Google tells me about the world, that I think is very empowering. That's the kind of thing that we want to do at Geeq.
And Matt?
Yes.
Well,
we just have the data side. We don't do any analysis. We're stupid.
No, well, that's the funniest thing that's been said today. But I agree with you completely, and this is where we fit together. The robot platform includes very sophisticated machine learning algorithms and tools, as well as through a relationship with a very friendly Waterloo company, PolyML, who focuses on incredibly sophisticated machine learning, as well as taking machine learning beyond building models and doing things like feature analysis. So analyzing models to be able to, for that exact reason that you said, is to ensure fairness, elimination of bias. And it's those aspects that can be put in an immutable way onto the blockchain for either regulators, because governments are getting very involved in this, as they should. But there's going to become a process in any emerging technologies. The regulators are behind the technology, but the regulations are coming for reporting requirements on your models, on AI, on your training data sets. And so while Robot makes it very easy and very fast to create the really high quality data sets to feed into these incredibly powerful analytics engines, then what? And right. That's where we see being able to, and this is a term that we've used internally, but to be able to geek it. So at the end of the process, when you've got your report, when you've got your response for anything, press a button and it goes to a place where you've agreed, a blockchain place where you've agreed with regulators that is where you put your reports.
Right. Ethical companies should want to show their work. You know, if you're doing the right thing, especially if it affects people's lives, you should be willing to tell us and to be transparent. But without something like blockchain, you really can't be. You know, you can show me your data, but I don't know if you've changed it. I don't know what your data really was the time you ran the thing. So, yeah, we ethical companies should want this, and hopefully, wise regulators will also compel other companies to do the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think that the idea of transparency in blockchain has been talked about in a very shallow way, in a way that scares people rather than seeing that there are ways to ensure that the data that has been used are correct, and you can trace back to them. So you can trust Matt's products, his customers can trust them, and not because there's a trust layer, but because they connect back to a blockchain layer. And not everyone has to see that, but the fact that it exists and the fact that we do it well together is going to be something that I think will become a competitive advantage, honestly, for a lot of companies. So,
may I add one more thing?
Yeah.
The fact that, and something that you said, Stephanie, which is blockchain has been talked a lot about. I see a future where blockchain is never talked about because it's just architecture. And so it's being talked about right now because there's some uncertainty about where things are headed. But I see it as being, I mean, when you talk about a car, you talk about what color it is, how fast it is, what you like about it. But the transmission is less interesting unless you are a mechanic. And so I think that that's where we're headed.
I know John agrees with that, right, John?
Sure.
Yeah, I wanted to pick up, just for the people who do know blockchain in the audience, that when John says a Geeq chain can do 1,000 transactions per second, what people may not know is that Geeq is a multi-chain platform.
Yeah.
Yeah. So by virtue of its architecture, any enterprise can have multiple chains going at the same time. So it's 1,000 transactions per second per chain times however many chains you have. Just
And permissioning
because
can be fun too. You can have one chain that has data that has to be protected and seen only by regulators, and other chains that are public because you want the public to see that you're doing the right thing. And everything.
Right. Staying in our lane doesn't mean that we can't do things in an interesting and flexible and useful way. So that's exciting. Oh dear. We're okay. So we spent a long time on that question. Is there a short question we could answer, perhaps? Oh.
So
well,
maybe I can speak.
Okay.
Okay. So the question is, how has how have our patents affected what protocol adopters will, what the approach will be, I guess, both for us and for partners. So, you know, the patents were the end of the process. The intellectual property, or the ideas there, the technology was what altered, of course, our pathways. I think the biggest change that's happened, we started off with proof of honesty, and that's most of what the original patent is. But we kind of evolved into this idea that we are able to do what we believe are the most important things that actual people in the real world will find useful without the use of smart contracts. The second patent incorporates those notions about how to generate the transaction types and the record structures and the transaction logic that allows you to marry the data systems that we offer with the applications that are actually useful, to go beyond simply just transacting a currency. And so that certainly has affected us, and that is really the foundation of the connections to the robot and other people like that.
And I think there's been, just to add, some new attention that's been paid to Geeq, even because we've had the first patent allowance in the U.S. And it's a confidence booster. Even though we knew the technology was good, it's a signal to other people. So I think it has increased the way that people see our solutions. Increased the confidence in which people see our solutions working. Okay, I think I'm going to ask for a little bit of time by myself, if you don't mind, because that's the next thing on the agenda. And thank you both. Thank you both. And look forward to talking to you again.
Oh, thank you very much, John and Stephanie. And congratulations again, Stephanie.
Thank you.
What a great day. Thank you for having me.
Thanks. Happy holidays.